Hello and welcome to the Leveling Up podcast with me, George Swift from Bigger, Brighter, Bolder. I'm also the founder of BBB Success Groups for ambitious entrepreneurs and extreme growth masterminds. The Leveling Up podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development, and the business growth that you, the ambitious small business owner, desires. We're here to give you the inspiration, the motivation, and to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget to tune in every Monday and Wednesday for mindset, attitude, personal performance, and business growth content, and every Friday when we do our Friday 5-minute fix. Subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Okay, so today we are talking about biorhythms. Now, biorhythms were made famous in the 70s. Basically, they are a regular, recurring pattern in people's lives that in the 70s they believed that if you could tap into that, then you could somehow increase people's performances, okay? In other words, people had their natural ebbs and flows. They were supposedly at certain times more creative than other times. They were more logical than other times. And back in the 70s, people were pushing biorhythms as a means of getting into the flow of life. Now, interestingly, the scientists have basically said that you've got no more chance of predicting people's performance that way than you have the pure chance. However, it's not about personal biorhythms that I'm particularly interested in. What I'm interested in is your business biorhythms, and they most certainly do exist. I first came across biorhythms, it was about 10 years ago or so. I was at a business club and someone was sitting next to me and he was really into these things, and he was explaining biorhythms, and I was sitting there thinking, you know what? Maybe there's something into it. You know, I know that definitely you can feel that sometimes and some periods and that you feel definitely more on it than others, more creative than others. So I thought, okay, it made kind of maybe sense to me. The idea was you map out for a period of time your natural performance in certain things. So how you feel about things, how you adapt to certain things. And the idea is if you map it out for a period of time, you could then start to predict your patterns moving forward, which means you could then work your diary, your calendar, your kind of workload around these natural rhythms. The idea being that if I know that every, I don't know, I can't remember how you worked it out. It wasn't like 28 days, it was a random like 26 days or something. But basically, if I know that for the first 8 days of a cycle, I'm particularly creative, it makes sense to kind of block your diary out and put the creative stuff in those 8 days. If I know I'm particularly good mathematically, it makes sense to do your account stuff, etc., or do the mathematically kind of work in those periods. Now, the truth of the matter is, I'm not saying I bought into it or anything else. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was possible. The scientists say nay, but that's not what I'm about. The point is, your business definitely does have these. And when I was sitting there chatting to that chap, it hit me like a ton of bricks that my business or business as a whole definitely has these kind of natural rhythms, okay? And if we could tap into these rhythms, then we can definitely get more productive. We're not interested in weekly rhythms, daily rhythms. We're not interested even in monthly rhythms. What we're going to talk about today is your yearly rhythms, okay? How your business ebbs and flows throughout the year. So here's what I want you to first of all think about. When you think about a year, in business, we typically take that year and we might break it down into quarters. Now, forget your financial year. Let's just look for now the calendar year, okay? So from January to December, and we all know that there's certain periods in that calendar that we know aren't particularly fruitful in terms of, say, new business, for example, or for certain businesses, they know that they're not very productive. Their clients aren't there to serve, either on holidays or the clients have their own kind of rhythms in their business, which means they're not around doing business at that particular moment in time. Take accountants for example. You're not going to be getting much out of an accountant when it comes to year end. When they're doing like 300 businesses year end, you're unlikely to be getting much out of them because they are going to be doing 10, 12, maybe 15, 18 hours a day for that whole period of time because they know predictably that's how it goes every single year. So they'll keep their calendar clear because they know that this is crunch time. So I want you to think for a moment, when you think about a year, first of all, understand that when you're planning your year out or you're thinking in terms of your year, not all of that year is equal. So first and foremost, there's two halves of the year. Now, those two halves of the year are not equal either. So let's look at a natural rhythm of a year for a typical B2B business, okay? So you're a small B, you're a small business, to small business, consultant, coach, whatever it is you do, okay? And I want you to think about that typical pattern, right? It's the same pattern that we have here. And that is typically, you'll have Christmas, you'll have New Year, you'll come into January, everyone's a little bit sluggish getting going, okay? They're not really there, they don't really want to do business yet. They're kind of finding their feet. Maybe they then start to catch up a little bit on what they were slacking on at the end of last year, leading into Christmas. Eventually, they tend to wake up. Now, in our business, we know for sure that our clients tend to not wake up fully until once we're into February. Okay, so once we're into February, we know they start waking up. The business owners are coming back online in terms of, for us, to start working with, to start marketing to, selling to, etc. So we then start a big campaign end of January, early February to catch people in that period that from middle to the end of February, they're starting to really come online. We then market and sell from the end of February all the way through, okay, till about July, right? So till about the end of June, maybe we might go a week or so into July, but typically round to the end of June, we know that is really fruitful sales time. It's a massive block. We then know a block, not a block as in a barrier, a block as in a block of time to sell to. So we then know that it goes quiet from about the end of July. People are starting to warm up for their holidays or wind down for their holidays. Holidays aren't typically 6 weeks anymore. Whilst you may, or your clients and you may be doing some work in the summer, a lot of small Bs are spending time with families. A lot of small Bs, as in small businesses, are doing kind of like nominal amounts of work. Does that make sense? They're doing a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe they're doing just purely 9 to 5, no more. Or maybe they're just doing half days or a couple of hours here and there. They might do a week here and a week off and then another week, whatever it is, right? But typically it's erratic from about kind of like early July all the way through till when the kids go back in early September. Now, of course, they don't come back online early September because everyone's catching up with what they've done over the summer break. They're blowing the cobwebs off, they're getting back into routines, etc. So we know that our client base does not wake up until around mid-September. So we'll start marketing, we know this, so we'll start marketing at the end of August to start catching those people, just to get in their psyche, if that makes sense. We won't start selling until we get into about mid to late September, and then we'll have an intense period from mid-September right the way through to about mid-November, okay? September, October, November, 2 months. Then, of course, once we get to the end of November, mid-November, yeah, you can sell right through November, and some people can sell into December, but typically people start giving you the fob off, they start giving you the excuse, they start, just not being as receptive as much. They start winding down, towards the end of November. Certainly once we get into December, business starts to slow down, people start getting a bit more erratic, people start deferring things to the new year. Then, of course, mid-December, that's it, right? Forget it, it's over. Everyone is either, broken up already, or they are certainly winding down. We then have a big old chunk of Christmas, winding up to Christmas. We then have the period over Christmas and New Year, and then we're back into the cycle again from the New Year through to, for us, around about that mid-February point. Now, once you know that kind of rhythm, it makes it easier to tap into the natural flows of your business. Now, if you are a small business that deals with small businesses, like we are, for example, then you will find that your pattern probably aligns quite heavily with that. If you're in retail, for example, or something else, then of course your patterns will be slightly different. We know, for example, that you'll never see a Bailey's advert during the year and summer and everything else. They do all of their marketing, big push, up to Christmas and over the Christmas period. We know other products that do the same thing. Christmas is their big push time. Coke, for example, Coke that always spends, I don't know what it is, like 99 cents in the dollar or something on its marketing and product placement. You only really see big campaigns from Coke leading up to Christmas and leading up and during summer. So they understand that even though people are drinking Coke all year round, they do understand when they should be marketing heavier, when they should be really making the hay while the sun is shining. So I meet a lot of small business owners that aren't aware of this cycle. So maybe they've never mapped it out. It's possible they've not been in business long enough to really get a fix on it yet. But more often than not, it's because their behaviors, their performance is quite erratic. So because they're living in their own kind of chaos, as in just trying to do what they can, when they can, whenever they can, and therefore they miss the signs and the sequences, or they just accept, oh yeah, Christmas is shit and summer's shit, but I still have to go out there and work because I still need the money, etc. They're not really understanding the power of tapping into this. I work alongside, and I've had a lot of members in that work too hard. And all my members will tell you this, right? Every quarter we do our quarterly review. And at every quarterly review for the last 7-8 years, I have been banging this drum over and over again. Understand the rhythms of your business. Once you learn the rhythms of your business, you can start to plan, map out, predict the flow of your business. You then know when you need to really turn it on and when you can back out a little bit. You know when you can rest and recuperate, and you know when you can go all in and absolutely make that hay while the sun is shining. I always say to people, we're coming up to summer, for example, and I say, you know what, during those summer holidays and everything else, if you have to go out and you have to do new business, you have to sell, you have to go networking, etc., because you just don't have the cash to get through summer, then of course you have to work through summer. So here you are watching this right now, listening to this right now. We are right in the peak of summer, for example, coming towards the end of summer. And, we've just had a big block of time when, maybe you've been on holiday, I've been on holiday, our clients have been on holiday, the sun's out, people are in this ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. And if you have to go out and do new business during that period, even though it's really hard to do new business in that period, then make this the last year you have to do it. And I say this every time, but any of my members are listening to this right now, they'll sit there and they'll be like, yep, heard this 100 times before from George. Every quarter we have the same chat. Not all halves of the year, not both half of the year, I'm saying it terribly, aren't I? Okay, are equal, okay? The halves of the year are not equal. The first half of the year is pretty clean sailing in terms of new business for me and a lot of small B to small Bs. It's clear to sell all the way through from middle of February, end of February, all the way through to the end of June. Huge chunk of new business time. Big chunk, the second half of the year, right? So the second half of the year has the whole of the summer holidays in it. Okay, it has the whole of the summer holidays in it. It also has a massive chunk of the lead up to Christmas. So as I said to you just earlier, we will do sales and hard sales activity, and we will work really hard on business growth between mid-February right the way through to the end of June. Maybe we'll take it a week or so into July. We will then back off a little bit. We'll do some other stuff. We'll tend to the business, maybe some creative projects, develop some maybe online products. We'll start putting content out there. We'll start producing content. Basically, we'll just kind of back off a little bit less intense. We'll rest, we'll recuperate, we'll take some time off all the way through. We'll start getting things rolling at the end of August. We'll start pushing hard early September, and then we will be smashing it from the middle of September through to the mid to the end of November. We will do as much new business between the middle of September and the end of November. So what's that? September, October, it's 2.5 months. We will do as much business in that 2.5 months as we do in the 5 months leading up to summer. But I tell you now, it's exhausting. We work so hard in the autumn every single year. We work so hard as a business in the autumn because we know that if we don't capitalize on that 2.5 month period, then we've missed it. And we've missed that flow. We've missed that big wave. And we're going to have to wait it out all the way through December, all the way through January. So another 2.5 months until we can really get into gear again. When I woke up to this pattern in my business, a couple of things happened. Number one, it enabled us to bring more intensity to the periods that are most fruitful. So it meant that we are happy, just like farmers, Farmers, when it comes to harvest time, they're out in the fields from the break of dawn till dusk, right? They're out there 12 hours, 14 hours, maybe more, reaping, reaping what they have sown. It's the same for us. Trees do it, plants do it. They have these natural flows in nature. Over the winter, the trees go dormant. They're not doing nothing, they're just dormant. They're storing their energy, they're getting ready. The sun comes out, that marks the beginnings of the next cycle. Bang, the blossom comes out, the bloom comes out, the leaves come out, and the trees are all out in full bloom all the way through summer, and then it starts coming around winter and they go back into those cycles again. So when you understand that your business will have these cycles, and if you are small business to small business company, you will probably find that what I'm saying rings very true to you. If you're another type of business, or your business, for whatever reason, has a different rhythm, that's absolutely fine. Just know what the rhythm is and tap into that rhythm. If you knew you were going to do 80% of your business over Christmas and New Year, let's say like Bailey's probably does, you would know to kind of take it easy, keep your money in your pockets, don't waste your money on marketing, don't waste too much energy. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. You come around the calendar, wait for it, hold back, bang, all in. Everything goes in. October, November, December, bang. They make all their money, or the majority of their money, over 2 or 3 months of the year. It's really powerful. It enables you to start plotting and planning when you spend your money. It allows you to start plotting and planning when you use your time and your energy in certain ways. Before I tapped into this biorhythm, we literally used to work flat out all year long. And what would happen is over Christmas, we couldn't afford to sit back and not do sales over Christmas. We didn't have the money to do it. So when everyone else was chilling out and backing off, we had to work twice as hard to get half as much. So we're working twice as much. We're putting twice as much energy, intensity in to our business to get half as much out of the business. Then we come around to February and business does get easier and sales start to pick up, but we're exhausted. So now we're still working really, really hard, but we're not working as hard as we could have done because we're tired and worn out, mentally, physically fatigued. And what happens then, of course, is we're not capitalizing through that February through to the end of June period. So we're getting through it, we're working hard, but we're leaving so much out there on the table. Then we come to summer, we couldn't afford to just ride summer out, so we had to do business during summer. So Tracy was out networking typically in the summer. If you've got a networking event that might have 40 people in that prime selling season that I'm talking about, come summer, Tracy's been out and had 10 or 12 people, sometimes even 8 people, and she's there trying to do business with a quarter of the number of prospects. The number of businesses that are on holiday, the number of businesses that are just disengaged. So we're working twice as hard to get half as much again. We come out of summer exhausted and tired, but we scrape through. We get just enough business to get us through that period. Then we turn around, we go, right, now we're in to middle of September, business starts to naturally pick up, no rest for us. We've got to keep on grinding it out because we still need that money. So we grind it out, but we're exhausted. So we do what we can. And we were working hard, don't get me wrong, but again, we're leaving so much on the table in those autumn months. Then we go into Christmas and we repeat the cycle. And we were absolutely exhausted, mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, emotionally fatigued. And we were just about clawing onto our business. We were just about staying in business. It was really a tough, tough time. Then I tapped into this natural rhythm. And I'm telling you now, during the summer, I back off. This is when I go to pasture a little bit, and I get some sun and we have our holiday. I've got my kids and they have really long summer holidays at the moment. They're at college, so we get like 12 weeks summer holiday. So, I have a week with them, then I have another 2 weeks on holiday abroad, then I'll have another 2 weeks with them. And during those periods, I'll do absolutely minimum amount of work to keep the business rolling. That's it. I'll be putting some content out there, producing some content, but it's nominal, okay? Most of the time I'm spending with my kids. And then what happens is we re-energize, we regroup, the fatigue leaves you. You can then start to get re-energized, re-excited, reignited, and then it starts to brew and it feels exciting. End of August, we're just creeping out, stretching out, blowing those cobwebs off, but we're doing it probably about a month before our clients are. So we're waking up nice and easy, no panic, no rush, just to start getting the engine rolling again. And by the time we get into September, the engines are rolling, we're flat out, and we will burn it hard for about 2.5 months. And we'll do as much new business in that 2.5 months as we do in the whole of the 5 months at the beginning half of the year, or the first half of the year. In summer, we will still do some business. In winter and Christmas, we will still do some business, right? But what we don't do is we don't work for it. We don't work hard for it. We just keep our name out there. We deliver to the clubs and that we have. Those don't stop over summer. So we have about 1 month off completely. The rest of the time we're still delivering to our masterminds and our success groups online and everything else. So we're still delivering the content. We're just not pushing hard in the business. So I want you to understand this. I want you to take this away for yourself. If it's the first time you've heard this from me, then let this be the last time you need to hear it. I keep beating this drum in my own success groups. I beat this drum in my extreme growth masterminds. It's an exhausting business being in business when you're trying to work flat out all of the time. No one can do that. You must rest and recuperate, and then you must hit it hard. Rest and recuperate and then hit it hard. And when you get these rhythms right, what happens is actually when it's really intense, it's really buzzing and exciting, and everyone's really on like an elevated level. It's fun and exciting and it's passionate. And in the quieter times, it's calm and it's relaxing. Does this make sense? So I want you to tap into your own biorhythms. If you are a small B to small B kind of business, you're probably going to relate to the routine I've just shared with you, or the flow I've just shared with you. If you are on any different kind of pattern or cycle, absolutely tap into that. If, for example, you had to work all summer long this year and you still have to work the rest of this summer out, maybe this Christmas you have to work all the way through. When I say working, I don't mean just working the business. I'm talking about this pushing hard for new business sales, for example. If you have to do it this Christmas, then make it the last Christmas. If you had to do it this summer, make this the last summer. Tap into your rhythms. I mean this. You're leaving so much on the table in the really peak times of new business because you're tired and worn out, because you're bringing too much to the whole year. So there you go. Takeaways for you today. Really simple, okay? Go with the tide. Go with the big waves. Think like a surfer. He paddles out, right? Like crazy. Paddles out and he waits. And he's out at sea and he's sunning himself on his surfboard and he's laying there and he's just bobbing around, and you might have all the other kind of muggy people that are there trying to grab every little wave, and they're missing some and grabbing some, and the ones they do catch are tiny little waves, and then they have to paddle frantically back out again and catch the next little wave and paddle out. And he's waiting and he's waiting, and this guy's been around the block a few years and he's waiting it and he knows it's coming, and he's just chilling out and relaxing and enjoying it and getting himself mentally prepared. He then starts to see the makings of the big wave out at sea, starts to prep himself, nice and relaxed. Everyone else is still frantically in and out trying to grab every little wave. There he is out on his board. He sees this wave brewing. He sees it coming. Him and maybe a few other real kind of wily surfers. They know what they're doing, right? And in comes the big wave. He gets himself up. He gets him on the board. He starts paddling with the wave. He catches the wave, and it's the wave of the day. I want you to think like that. When your business finds it easier to do new business, so when your clients are awake and alert and they're present and they are buying, that's the big wave. You want to ride that bastard, honestly, within an inch of its life. Wring it dry, and you can afford to wring yourself dry. You can make the sacrifices. You can work the long days, the long nights. You can do the weekends. Why? Because there's another rest period coming up. You're going to have a summer, a couple of months probably, when you can go back out, hang out on your surfboard, and just enjoy the sun, just do a normal amount of stuff, you know, to maintain your business. You're going to keep marketing, of course you are. You're going to have stuff in place. I'm not saying you're going to take 2 months off and do nothing. I'm saying you're going to back right off. You're going to conserve energy. You're going to rest and recuperate. And then you're going to see that wave brewing again, right, in August. And then through the end of August, and then in September, you're going to see it, you're going to start paddling. Middle of September, you're going to ride that bastard into the shoreline, and you're going to wring it dry of everything it has, and then you're going to enjoy the shit out of your Christmas because you made hay while the sun was shining. Catch the big waves. Know your biorhythms in your business. Let this be the last year that you are working twice as hard for half as much during Christmas time, during the summertime. Work twice as hard for twice as much in the haymaking times, okay, from February right the way round to July, and then from middle of September through to the end of November, okay, work twice as hard for twice as much then, and then literally work half as hard over the Christmas period and the summer period to recuperate. Okay, I keep saying it, I keep beating that drum. I see way too many business owners burnt out. I see way too many business owners tired. I see them putting all this energy in and just not getting out what they need to get out. Okay, it's one of the smartest things we ever did in our business was tapping into these natural ebbs and flows in our business and in our market area. You do the same and you'll make life a lot easier for yourself. You'll be more productive. You will be more successful. Awesome. Thank you guys. What a awesome message that is that you need to be listening to going in. You're right in the middle of your summer, so I appreciate it's a little bit late for the summer. However, start mapping it out to the rest of, to the end of the year. Start mapping it out for next year. Catch those big waves, and you'll thank me for it. I promise you. Okay, if you are a small business owner and for whatever reason yet you haven't quite hit the 100 grand turnover mark and you want to know what's it going to take to hit 100k in turnover or more in the next 12 months or less, then get yourself onto my webinar, which is waiting for you right now, the 6-figure fast track. It's a no bullshit webinar. And it goes through the 3 things you need to have in place. First of all, it talks about awareness. Then it challenges you, as in, are you ready for 6 figures? And then it talks to you about what you need to have in place in order to hit that 100K. We're talking about having a 6-figure mindset, a 6-figure business model, and a 6-figure methodology. Get those 3 things in place and you are well on your way to hitting 100K. Go and check that out. It's a biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track. I'll put the link in the description as well so you can follow it there. But yeah, if you're a 5-figure business, currently not yet doing 100K in turnover, get yourself on the 6-figure fast track. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on that. Okay, guys, have an awesome one. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, be successful.